Let me make things clear. Michael Myers is dead. D-E-A-D, dead. Here's your spooky spot on the Mezco Toyz Halloween 2 Michael Myers. Michael Myers, the serial killer from Halloween, returned to menace a new generation of filmgoers thanks to Rob Zombie. Now you can menace your own collection with a Michael Myers figure. The figure is accurate to his appearance of the killer in the film and comes included with a knife. Before things start slashing, how about the first thing we actually do is grab our tape measure just to see how tall the Mezco Michael Myers stands. Now he's going to be a little bit more simpler when it comes to his sculpting, especially below the neck. He's obviously going to always be in this crouched position too, and that gives us a figure that's going to be about 7 inches in height. If 7's up there, Michael Myers is actually closer, I guess, to be about 6 3/4 of an inch, or that works out to be a figure that's 17 centimeters tall. And really swaying to the side, here's what the Mezco Halloween 2 Michael Myers looks like next to what we just recently looked at, the Rob Zombie's Michael Myers from Mezco Toyz. Two completely different companies, and by choices by Mezco of having their Michael Myers in a sort of weird squatted position like this, you really can't look at these and think that they're from the exact same toy line. I think if anything, Mezco did a better job of painting the figure, but I really can't get past the fact that they didn't make his legs straight. It almost looks like a regular adult human next to what Tyler Mane would look like in the Halloween films. He was way too tall for Michael Myers. Speaking of Michael Myers, though, here's another Michael we can compare along with this. So on this side, obviously, is the Rob Zombie Michael Myers from Halloween. In the middle is the Mezco we're about to have a look at. And then onto the other side is one of the earlier Michael Myers that came released in The Evolution of Evil. I'm just leaving out the young Michael for this comparison. Other comparisons we can also make. I thought it would kind of be fun, too, to bring in a Halloween 2 Michael Myers from NECA. Now, this is Dick Warlock, obviously, playing the role of Michael, and sculpting is so much nicer, not to mention better articulation as well. And another figure we can also bring in as well. I mean, it really dates these figures when you start bringing these ones in, but here's what he also looks like next to the reissued 2018 Halloween Michael Myers. You'll be also happy to know I still have the knife that comes included with this Michael Myers. Being the only accessory that comes included with them, they were less likely to be lost. I jokingly say that because when, of course, we had a look at the Rob Zombie Michael Myers from Mezco Toyz, I was missing two of the knives, and I was also missing the grassy display base that the tombstone sat on top of. Mezco really did shortchange Mikey here. Only came included with the knife, and thank goodness, whoosh, I still have the knife intact. Getting a closer look at the knife right now. I mean, you could really, if you want to use this displayed with the NECA version of Michael Myers, then yeah, you could do that as well. The handle, as you can see, does still have the riveted points painted in silver. The two halves are still together, but you don't get that little bit of metal in the middle, but that's fine. And you've got quite a lot of blood happening here. So much so, in fact, it actually looks like the blood is dried. Michael has stabbed again. That blood is dried, and Michael is stabbed again. It looks like there's several different layers, several different aged levels, different layers of aged blood, all on the blade itself. The blade itself is done in plastic. I'm going to run my knife across it. I'm not going to flinch. I'm not going to make that joke because one of these days is going to happen. And then everybody's going to say, there's the reviewer that cried wolf. I'm going to be bleeding all over the place. But not the case here. It's not a sharp blade at all. And this can fit into his hand. I say, I'm going to do that in quotations. It can fit into his hand, although his hand is really hard to get the knife in there. One of the things I noticed also about the original Cinema Fear figures from Mezco is that the plastic that they used was always really hard. In fact, to get things like knives in his hand, I would even suggest probably heating the hand in hot water. First of all, get a good look at the grimy fingernails. Of all the things that Michael's concerned about right now, grooming is not one of them. He certainly is letting himself grow when it comes to his beard and both his hair, but also his fingernails. He cares very little about actually cleaning his nails. They're gross, they're grimy, they're gray, and they've got all this gross looking like dirt and who knows what's all over these. But the knife actually does fit into this hand here. The other hand is actually just a grabbing hand, although he doesn't really have anything else to grab other than just victims. But if to take the knife in his hand, first choose which side you want to have it, because once you get it in there, you're probably then going to regret that you didn't have it facing the opposite way. Traditionally, I would probably have Michael Myers with the knife this way, but I think for the purpose of this review, I'm going to take the handle And again, I would certainly encourage using hot water for this. I really should have even used hot water and just have to really wedge it in there. It's easier to get the blade actually in there than it is. I guess it's no surprise. It's easier to get that in there than it is to actually remove the handle. Once it's in there, you really have to fight to get this out from his grip. But at least then he's got himself a knife. One thing at least, this one can say that the NECA one unfortunately didn't say. I'm sorry again for that. Getting a closer look at his head sculpt. Now again, like this is Michael Myers. He sort of goes through stages in Halloween 2. I mean, first he has the full mask, as cracked as it may be. And then he eventually loses one side of the face. And then until eventually he just decides, you know what? It's more hassle for me to just keep wearing this flopping mask on my face. I'm just going to take it off completely. And then he starts becoming more that hobo Myers. But this is still sort of Michael with the mask intact. But as you can see, it's barely holding on. The cracks are nice. In fact, I would almost even say like the cracks, the way they painted the mask is actually nicer than NECA's. In fact, you know what, for me just to say that, let's actually bring the two masks in so you can see the difference between the two. The hair is certainly a little more unkept in Mezco's release, but I would dare even say like the paint is handled so much nicer. When you're certainly seeing the two next to each other like this, does not the NECA look a little bit more yellow? A little too yellow maybe? Whereas this one actually kind of goes more the route of a gray color. But the cracks look so much nicer, I think, on the Mezco's release, if you can overlook the fact he's got this big long beard sticking out the bottom of his mask. Wait, what? Let's move that figure out of the way and discuss that further. Yeah, if you get a closer look at his face, not only can you see those peering peepers looking at you, but this Michael also does have the start. I don't even want to say the start. He's been growing this for a while. He's got a full bit of beard, a mane, if you will, a Tyler mane. He's got a beard sticking out the bottom of his neck like that. And I mean, you know, looking at it like this, you almost don't even notice it for a second. You can almost even just say he's got a really hairy chest. Unfortunately, then, like, he loses this side of his face, or is it this? I think it's this side of his face. And then eventually, like I said, the mask is just done altogether. I would have really wished he could have kept the mask for the majority of the movie, but not really the case. But yeah, for what we actually get here from Mezco, I think they did a better job, honestly, on the mask. You got the cracks nicely done here on the side of his face. Cracks actually really starting to develop around his eye area there too. There's certainly seams places like on the side. It almost looks like he started to stitch this mask up before he finally just said, forget about it. But there's all this cool wet blood. I mean, to see it as wet like this, I would almost even expect it either to be sticky to the touch or I'd be able to rub this off. It looks like it's still wet paint. It's a really nice painted mask. Again, I don't really like the idea he's got a beard down below, and of course he does have a full hair underneath this. Here's the hair of at least of the mask. And, it, you know, again, like the sculpting of it is really, really well handled. The mask, by far, for me at least, is the best thing about this figure. The rest of it is still the boiler that he has, but the problem I really have with this figure is that a lot of the old Cinema of Fear figures looked really chunky and really minimalistic sculpting. I mean, you get the decent looking hands. I mean, we looked at this hand here. Let's get a closer look. This would certainly be why I would suggest washing your hands before you eat a meal. Although I don't think Michael is really worried when he's eating dog and all the other things that he finds along the way. But he's got all his gross griminess all over across his fingers. You can see, hopefully see right there. Cool effects that they've really done here. I like the way they've actually done the nails so discolored like this. But the hands do come across, I mean, they really read very chunky. He's got these sausages for fingers on both the sides, actually. Like, proportionally, he's not bad here, but unfortunately, because they decide to make him a pre-posed figure where he's got his knees permanently bent like this, not only does it make him look shorter, not only does it make him look squatter, but it also makes him look like he's not properly proportioned. I do like they added an excessive amount of blood. I mean, this one does a lot of blood all over the place. I mean, obviously, you can see where it started with his knife, but the blood is all over his sleeve. It's all across his shoulder here, even the wetness of the collar, and he's got all across his pockets, too. But judging by the fact that Michael's hands, as filthy as they are, really, it does look like he doesn't have any blood on them. So likely, as he's killing people, he's just wiping them on his coveralls. But he's got blood all across his thigh area there. He's got blood here on the side. This very much looks like he just would have wiped his hands as he's finished killing somebody. Some nice little silver snaps there on the side where this would have been able to open up. He's got a few little snaps for adjustments on the back. Of course, on the back, he's got just as much blood. How does he get this much blood on his back? That's what I'm really curious. I mean, yeah, gunshots probably. He's got a few little entry wounds there as well. The wounds themselves are just kind of painted and blended in with all the rest of the red. But still, it's a nice looking figure. My only, again, issue with it is the way he's squatted like this. If only he was standing straight, he'd be a little bit closer to scale to the NECA one that we looked at earlier. For the articulation on this guy, his head is on a ball joint, so it rotates all the way around. Just get his arm out of the way. Rotates all the way around. It looks down and it looks up, and you can also rock it back and forth as well. Shoulders are on hinge joints, but they only hinge out to about here. It looks like he almost wants to give you a hug. Arms rotate all the way around. Now, he does also have a swivel in his forearms. But again, like when you look at the length of the arm, everything is really chunky on Michael here. Hands rotate also all the way around. There's a mild hinge joint also happening there. He only has straight swivels. So that's one thing at least this figure had that the NECA didn't have before. But unfortunately, when you're rotating it, I mean, it's going to break the mold up. It's not going to look seamless. And it's also going to look like a magician started to saw Michael in half. And then, of course, he does have no articulation. I thought he had maybe mild articulation. He's got a little bit, but for the length of the leg that he has, it covers over any option, any possibility to actually be able to swivel these boots back and forth. But, you know, I got to say, like, other than just his proportions being a little out of whack, I got to say, actually, I do like this one a little bit more than I liked the one from NECA. He also benefits from being able to stand a little bit better. And in the case of this one, because he also has only one accessory that I haven't lost, oh, he actually is a complete figure that I can actually do a full review from top to bottom, front to back, and not actually have to apologize for anything that I was missing along the ways. You know, again, being the two Rob Zombie entries for a figure, yeah, both of them are dated. I don't know if we are ever going to be getting ourselves ultimate releases of these from, not likely Mezco, unless Mezco decides down the road to do like a 1/12 version of the Rob Zombie Michael Myers. Maybe that might be the case down the road. But I'm hoping at some point, like I did mention with this one here, that NECA decides that they want to release an ultimate version of the Rob Zombie Michael Myers. Maybe give us ones from both the films. Although again, while he looks okay here, he gets so progressively worse as the movie gets further, becoming less Michael Myers and more Hobo Myers, not a look I really cared about for the character. Despite disliking the Rob Zombie Halloween 2, you could clearly see that the studio really wanted him to follow the formula of the original classic for the first entry, and then by the second time, they just basically said, you know what, you can do whatever you want. And we clearly got whatever he wanted. I mean, we have his mother riding around as a spirit riding a white stallion. What's that all about? And of course, without spoiling the end for anyone that hasn't had the unfortunate chance of seeing the Halloween 2, the whole ending just makes, like I said, it just wraps it up in such a way that you say to yourself, what did I just watch? Well, it's been a while since I actually have seen Halloween 2. If anything, I usually have, if enough time on my hands, I'll get in there the Rob Zombie Halloween. Because my significant other actually does like the Halloween 2 from Rob Zombie a little bit more. I don't know, it's a little bit strange for me at least. And I just never get the chance to watch Halloween 2. And maybe that's probably a good thing. If I want to watch a Halloween 2, I'll stick with maybe the original classic with Dick Warlock. I'll not watch this one. But you know, despite my dislike for this film, I think that Mezco actually delivers a better looking Michael Myers when it's all said and done to the one we got from NECA. NECA's is good, at least it does have the height. And it benefits from having the better accessories. Ones that I did unfortunately lose. But this one actually has, even though it has a shorter, squatter Michael, I think it's actually sculpted better, and I think there's a whole lot more realistic to the movie paint applications. The mask, I like the more grayish tones that they went with for the mask, unlike NECA's that went with more that yellowish tone, and I also like the way they painted the blood onto the side of his mask. Enjoy this while it lasts, because it doesn't last very long in the movie. Before you know it, he's Hobo Myers, and then again, you're asking yourself, what exactly am I watching? Anyways, though, between the two figures, like I said, I like the Mezco just a little bit more. But what do you guys think? Let me know down below, down in the comment section, which company made the better Rob Zombie Michael Myers? The one that we got from Mezco Toyz, or the one that we looked at in this review released by Mezco? Always like reading your comments down below. And it certainly as well, as if you enjoyed this video, hit it with a like. If you're loving the content you're seeing and do want to stick around for more, because we're still full into the spooky spot season. I think we're about halfway through the month if I'm looking at the calendar right. There's definitely a lot more spooky videos coming your way. The key to making sure that you're not missing out on any of that is by hitting the subscribe button down below and turning on the bell notification. And of course, like I said, even though we have finished up things with the Mezco Halloween 2 Michael Myers, there's definitely still going to be a lot more spooky spots coming your way. As always, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.